The Historical Background of Caribbean Female Vampire Myths by Heather Hinton, Edie Thompson, Parker Davenport, and Alyssa D'Angelo.
The mythical female vampire of Caribbean folklore goes by many names depending on the region from which the story comes, called in some places the Sucuyant, the Old Hag, the Loup-Garou, or the Asema. The myth depicts an older woman, usually unmarried, who at night sheds her skin and becomes either a humanoid beast or a ball of fire, and drains the lifeblood from victims, usually male, in the village, either the literal actual blood or a more intangible life force. Now, like most mythology, the myth reflects the society in which it is told, specifically the gender roles that exist in these societies. It's used to represent a tangible other, either that of a woman on the fringes of society due to her status as elderly, unmarried, independent, or often lower class, or it can also be used to represent a colonizing power, echoing the history of colonialism and exploitation in the regions where the Sucuyant myth is told.
Female vampire mythologies arose as folk traditions in the Caribbean. Beginning as oral stories, then transposed to written word, the myths typically depict a villain character as one with Creole features and dialect, reflecting the slavery and cultural divisions of the region's past. The Caribbean culture results from its history of slavery. The overlay of African myths with European and Asian influence is reflected in the myths. The region's economy is largely reliant on craft trades such as masonry and the production of raw materials. Remnants of pre- and post-emancipation folk culture remain in the area today. During the time of the slavery, women were viewed with an overall suspicion due to high infant mortality rate and women's longer lifespans relative to the male slaves around them.
The Sucuyant occupies a literal and metaphorical space outside the accepted boundaries. The woman is made monstrous by her repudiation of social norms. By emerging from her skin and flying in the night sky, she accentuates her flouting of the acceptable spaces for women to inhabit. She travels outside the domestic sphere as well as the physical landscape occupied by ordinary humans.
The Sucuyant in Greedy Choke Puppy is not what you would expect, but it is at the same time. It turns out that this story is about a lineage of these female vampire creatures. They become free at night, much like in Dracula. However, the Sucuyant terrorizing Diego Martin is not the old woman, but the young one who has just exited her prime. She's educated with a PhD and studies the mythologies that we eventually find out make up her life. She's an outsider that hides in the skin of an insider. Myths about Sucuyants likely arose from the high rate of infant mortality and parents' need to blame someone, i.e. the older woman in the village who seemed to live forever. So Greedy Choke Puppy provides a new insight on what the outsider actually looks like. The Sucuyant steals the youth and life of others. Lucy sucks blood and steals the innocence of children in Dracula, just as the vampire first stole her innocence. The Sucuyant in Greedy Choke Puppy meets her downfall at another Sucuyant's hands because she greedily steals youth to relive her prime. While in Dracula, Lucy is a new woman, sexually liberated, free. In Greedy Choke Puppy, Jackie cannot simply love other things in her life, like her grandmother suggests. Her grandmother says, "Love does cool we down." She is too greedy and not happy with who she is. She cannot love herself and scares men out of doing so. Therefore, she resorts to Sucuyant ways and is no longer referred to by her name. The contrast here is Dracula's emphasis on new women being a disease in society against Greedy Choke Puppy's emphasis on being comfortable with who you are because becoming too greedy can turn you into a monster.
In what ways is Jackie from Greedy Choke Puppy similar to Lucy from Dracula? What do these similarities reflect about society's view of women? Why is Jackie's transformation to her Sucuyant self, removing her skin, significant? How is Greedy Choke Puppy representative of the fears and culture of Caribbean society? What does the Loup-Garou represent? Works cited.